So, Pat, I have a surprise for you this week. Are you sitting down?
Yes.
Okay. Bottom firmly planted to the wood?
Firm.
Okay. How are your legs feeling? Good?
Losing circulation by the minute. Please hurry.
Okay. So, Zach, the third host of the Reminiscent podcast, has been very busy for the past 95 weeks, but he was able to clear his schedule today, and he is here on the call. Say hello, Zach.
Hey,
Zach.
friends.
Oh, man. That's a lovely surprise.
He had no idea.
Glad I was sitting. Right. It was a good warning, a warning that I needed, and here we are.
Yeah, unclench those
Lift your
legs.
booty up a little bit, Pat. I don't want you to lose circulation to your legs.
I'm going to keep it moving,
fine
keep
tone.
it loose. Keep the glutes loose.
That's all you can really ask for in life.
That's all you can,
Some loose glutes. So last week, there was kind of a cliffhanger. I wrote in our show notes, LD, certain that I would know what the that meant, and I totally forgot. And as soon as we hit stop on our recording, almost immediately I remembered what it stood for. And it goes back to Pat's wedding. I saw something that I will never forget, and I think Zach saw it too. Pat line dancing like a fucking pro. Do you want to talk about that?
Oh,
Line dancing.
I think Jesse really wanted it to happen at the wedding, and then the DJ played the song she'd requested, and I looked around, did a quick once-over, and everyone had no... Well, what was really funny was all my New Mexico friends at that point were pretty...
It was lit, fam. Right?
Yeah, they were a little toasty, I guess. So they started pounding their feet on the floor like bop, bop. And then everyone kind of gathered around like some kind of Instagrammable moment was going to happen. But I looked at the DJ. I'm like, they don't know what the hell they're doing. This is going to lead to nothing. This is going to be the biggest disappointment in the history of wedding dance floors. But the tension was really building, you know, as they continued to just stomp on the floor to the beat. Like it was kind of losing its one-trick poniness. So I went to the DJ. I'm like, please, dear God, he just had to do this because this is going to go south quick. So luckily, the DJ, who did a very good job, rushed out onto the floor. And what was it again? What was the song?
I don't. It's on my phone. There's obviously proof of
Copperhead Road, I believe. But he went out there and he shook his feet a little bit. That one was pretty simple. The first line dance I ever learned was Mrs. Finati at a Just Say No dance in middle school. She taught me the electric slide. Which I was actually kind of honored to learn.
Yeah, I was shocked. It looked like you knew what you were doing.
Line dances are not dancing. It's just like follow these instructions. It's kind of like, I don't know, cooking something that's been cooked 1,000 times before. It's just like follow the instructions in the book and you just do the task. I don't know. To me, that's not impressive.
I truly missed that.
Oh,
I did miss that. Where I was, I don't remember. I don't recollect where I was, what I was doing. I knew I was in the building and I was close by, but what I was doing and where my attention was directed, it was most certainly not toward line dancing, and I missed that, man.
you were pretty lit, fam.
But well, later for sure. We did have an extra bottle of champagne at the table, if you know what I mean. It was pink and bubbly and quite tasty.
I didn't expect that. Then they'd be like, we don't know what to do with this. We're like, you can just set it down if you want. Just right there. But
man.
this is last week we talked in depth about the wedding. You can go back and listen if you'd like. This week, Zach is joining us, which is an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
And Tom this is day 3 without his lovely wife at home. She's in England. For what again, Tom?
She is learning Norse mythology.
Right. Exactly. Which is basically market research for the next Ron Carnage novel. No, just kidding.
Didn't even think about that.
So that trip is completely written off tax-wise.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, the company's
it's a work
paying for it.
expense.
Yeah.
But Tom has run out of things to do because he's been so productive to try to forget that Megan's not around. So he watched all the Lord of the Rings last night and decided that he wants to body mod his ears into the shape of an elf's ears, a la Liv Tyler. And here we are with Zach in tow for the body mod episode. Welcome, everybody.
So Yeah, I've seen the first two movies over and over and over, ad nauseum, you could say. Never watched the third one.
But which editions, though? I mean, are we talking the extended full cuts
It's an important
here
distinction.
with the trifold, like sort of leather-backed casing for each DVD, which there are 6 actual DVDs for the film, not to mention the special features.
Or 24 VHS tapes, right?
I actually don't know the
Is that
conversion.
real? Is there a VHS
mathematically.
version of the box set?
I don't think so. No, so I had the DVDs, like I don't think they call them first edition, like the original releases or whatever. And
Like the theatrical versions.
yeah, and just
Which are acceptable.
couldn't find them anywhere. So I had to buy all of them again on iTunes like a freaking idiot. It was like $40 for the 3 movies, but I didn't want to look in my basement, so it was much more convenient to press a button on my Apple TV and download them right to the TV. So that's what I did.
Yes.
The original plan
Right.
was to watch them all back to back, and that would have put me up until I think it would have been about 8 in the morning from the time I started watching. So
yes.
I ditched that plan, did one a night.
Which is past the sunrise at that point. Like, you're into the next day.
That's like fully into like my work day.
That 5 a.m. to 8 a.m., 3 hours is pretty crucial in terms of how your next day is going to be.
So I did not do that. But as a big fan of Zelda, right, very fascinated with the elf ears, and I spent a non-trivial amount of time researching the body modification. It would not be my first implant. I do have that small magnet in my right ring finger.
Could you define non-trivial, please, Mr. Kelly? Could we go back in the minutes a few seconds here?
Probably most of the first movie I was on my phone.
What was your first Google? What was the phrase?
I think it was just elf ear body mod.
Oh.
And that gave me everything I needed to know. I mean, there's several different kinds, right? There's like the split the ear in half, fold it over, and sew it back up. I'm a side sleeper, so I don't think that's really going to work. And after knowing the pain of the one implant that I do have, I don't think realistically I would want to do it. But there is this new way of doing it that isn't as like dramatic of an effect, but rather than splitting the ear and folding it, they put an implant at the top of the ear, I guess. And
The ear bone.
yeah, the ear bone. It just makes like a nice little point, and it's very subtle. It kind of looks like how my ears were as a child. Like, I think I've told this story before. My first theatrical play was a musical. It was called The Hobbit. And I was the king, or the Elven King. And the first time I read The Hobbit, I read it as 11 King the whole time. Because I was in 4th grade. I was like, what's the 11 King? But anyway, so I was an elf in the play, and my sister comes up to me and was like, oh my God, your elf ears look so good, because they were putting on like prosthetic elf ears. I was like, Caitlin, they're not even on yet. I just had super pointy ears as a kid. So, yeah, I think they kind of rounded out with age. I grew into them. But I don't know. I think it'll be fun. And yeah, Liv Tyler, she really sells it in this movie. I will.
That's where they get you. That's the whole thing with elf ears, is you watch that movie and Liv pulls it off flawlessly. And you're like, maybe. It's really just a giant 17-hour infomercial for body modding. That's the real truth. Zach, what were your first thoughts when you learned Tom put a magnet in his finger? Because I think that was my first exposure to even doing anything like that.
Well, in the time it took for him to explain what was going on within his body, within my head, once I realized what he had done, he had surpassed describing what the procedure was like and had gone immediately into what the pain was like. And I was intrigued that, wow, you can pick up a quarter with your finger. You know, that's like loading the dice, right? If you're going to go into it like flipping a coin competition with somebody.
Which I don't think was the intention. Like, you're really missing out on some opportunities here, Tom, to load dice and really reap the benefits. Like, you need to be wandering into more alleys is what you should be doing.
You can pretty much do what you want now. And
All 'cause
you don't need permission anymore. You don't need to ask permission or need a slip or like an ID or anything. You've got a magnet in your finger.
No worries, you got the magnet.
And that's where it is. But I noticed that the pain was just excruciating.
for
and I
like
didn't feel
4
it myself.
months. Yeah.
Right. And I didn't feel it myself, but I felt it when I was near you because you were in such pain. And
In my soul.
man, I just felt it kind of deep down. And at that point, I realized that I would never do a magnet in my finger. And I didn't spend a whole lot of time on making that decision because I pretty much had my mind made up beforehand. But that split second, I was thinking that maybe not.
So what percentage of a robot does that make Tom? Like there are definitely I feel like that's a trend over the last decade. There was some video I was looking at where people are really getting into like the body mod stuff. And we can get back to the elfier stuff if we'd like, but I'm curious, is Tom at least a sliver of a percent a robot because he can pick up a paperclip with his finger? Like you've entered into that realm.
I can pick up a spoon.
See, that's maybe 3% in my book. I don't know, like spoon picking up.
What makes a robot like a thinking? Well, not a thinking.
Yeah,
but
as we drift closer
operational...
towards perhaps even like a contact lens that could serve as a display screen for a computer or something which isn't that far fetched in 2018. I'm just curious. Do you consider what's in your finger to be even on that plane, or am I way off there? And is that a stretch?
I think it's a stretch. I mean, it's not intelligent. It's not like a moving programmable object. It's just a piece of magnetized metal about the size of a Tic Tac.
So then the elf ears would definitely not make you a robot then?
It'd probably make him an elf, really.
I'm just kidding.
So, but you can't will the magnet to magnetize it harder or softer, or like let things go and use the force or whatnot. But I'd say the contact lens is probably more robotic than a magnetized finger.
So it's really interesting that we're doing this episode today because I did the magnet finger right after Megan and I moved in together. She went to New York City for a weekend to hang out with her friend. And while she was out of town, I did it. She's in London right now. The perfect time to get elf ears. So I think we might be live streaming the procedure.
Yeah.
Is that what I hear in the background? Like a scalpel getting sharpened with a whetstone and some like Dave's honing oil?
I don't think they use a stone.
Dude. If you're getting elf ears inserted, you might as well do it the old-fashioned elf way with a whetstone and a blunt knife. You just got to do it the real way.
Hardcore, dude?
Just hack.
What, some kind of elf wimp, dude? I feel like we have to go through at least, just for the love of goodness, because I hear it in your voice that you didn't Google it for an hour and a half, or director's cut 2.5 hours.
No, the movie's like 3.5 hours.
Oh my God. It's really, can I just say that movie marathon, when you get through the first third of Return of the King, when you're doing the extended cuts, it drags. Like you feel it right at the beginning of that third movie.
It's like wearing the ring itself.
It's a burden, dude.
It's all of our burden to bear. You wouldn't understand, Samwise.
But I can hear it in your voice. I feel like you need to give me, or Zach, or both of us, a pro and con list to whether or not you could end all it by saying I'm not going to do it, but I'm curious what the pros would be that would keep you curious.
I would look more like Liv Tyler, pro. Con, cannot think of a single one that outweighs looking more like Liv Tyler.
That's honestly, you just nailed that question. I don't even know why I asked. I'm sorry for wasting
You're
everybody's
just so
time.
optimistic, and we need more of that in this world. Just sheer, plain optimism. This is everything that I'm going to want it to be, and there's no drawbacks.
It's the way of the elves,
bro. Nothing wrong.
Is it? I don't know enough. I saw, who was it? Oh, it was Brandon Spangler, bless his heart. He was messing with the Elven alphabet back when the movies were coming out.
Yes, dude.
And I was super jealous because he was getting good at the calligraphy part. And I think he might be onto something. I don't know. It was a thing. What was that?
Well, he never ended up with the ears though. nor did he end up with any other mod.
That's true. He, and actually, you guys will appreciate this, I think, to a certain degree. He and Ryan Bresky, who used to be a member of the band we were all in, we used to play Twin Towers for PS2 for hours at Bresky's Lake Cliff house. We wasted a lot of time on that game. But the arrow shooting function was very user-friendly. I thought that was a very fun game, perhaps underrated.
So, wait, you still there?
Yeah, sorry. I did not think that anecdote was going to bring it to that.
No, it cut out. I didn't hear you.
Oh, okay.
Can you repeat it?
Oh, you didn't hear me? Oh, no, it's not worth repeating. I played video games with Spanky and Ryan Bresky like more than a decade ago, and it fit the subject matter, but then there was 3 full seconds of silence. So I'm not going to repeat the anecdote. I'm not going to do that. But anyhow.
So in this group, I have stretched ears, very light modification, septum ring, nose ring. I've had lips.
When you say stretch for the listeners, it's
an inch.
Gauges, like earrings, larger earrings, right?
They're not
it's
called
the bottom
gauges,
of the ear.
Pat, but yes.
Okay, don't hate me. I'm trying to let the reader know what part of your freaking ear you've made.
Talk down to the dum-dums level. Is that what you're saying?
Okay. I'm sorry, everyone assumed they knew which part of your ear you were referring to.
So my earlobes are stretched to an inch. I've had maybe a dozen other piercings, nothing too obscure. Zach has a bunch of tattoos, and Pat, you have nothing.
It's true. It's true.
I mean, obviously, you're the unique one in this.
Well, let me ask you this
tattoo.
first before you come after me, because you already warned me about this, and I'm prepared for it. But I will ask this question. Why is the word gauge in my head if it's so incorrect?
Well, everyone calls them gauges, but the gauge is the size of the plugs or tunnels.
So it's not even colloquially or whatever? It's not even okay in conversation to say? Or it's just fundamentally
I mean, it just makes you sound like you don't know what you're talking about, like to people in the community, I guess. So if you call them gauges.
I'm glad you phrased it that way.
Gauges?
That's
I call them noobs.
Yeah, because I don't, and I would not fit in that community. That's accurate and fair. So I apologize, and I feel like we've all learned something today, but perhaps only me.
So, Pat, do you ever see a situation in your life where you would get a tattoo?
Yeah.
I think they call them inky boys, though, right? You got to get some gauges and inky boys?
Yeah, dude.
They don't call them inky boys? Is that just me?
What's Inky
Boys?
Inky Boys.
Inky Boys.
You
boys.
talked down to me so hard on the gauge thing. I was like, oh yeah, the Inky Boys, duh. That's just that's a phrase that everybody in the community is aware of.
So would you ever get an Inky Boy?
So Jesse and I considered the tattooed wedding ring.
Really?
Yeah. She brought it up just because we were looking at the price of rings and everything.
Okay.
I had considered, I had Googled fonts for a letter J on the inside of my left ring finger. That maybe a ring would cover up or something like that. But yeah, the thought process was there heading into the wedding, but I forget why it wasn't a decision. It was just something that happened, but we ended up going with rings instead. But yeah, I would have for that. It just didn't happen that way for whatever reason.
What would the letter J be for, though? That's what
Her name, I guess? I don't know. I didn't go too far down the path.
Jock Jams Volume 3.
Oh, yeah. No, totally.
I should have given you more credit than that, Zach. I'm sorry. I thought you were actually asking.
A tattoo is like one of those investments that it's a pretty good one, right?
Is it?
You get it, and then it's there
forever.
You can't lose it.
Right.
It's always
there. Do you guys
there.
have first tat stories that you want to share?
I don't have mine anymore.
Wait, you don't have the tattoo anymore?
I got covered up.
Oh.
It was just in the way of another one that I wanted, so they just covered it up.
Yeah. I just finished I had a few on my right arm that were just sort of there, and they had no real rhyme or reason. And I just had a bunch of work done to my right arm, and now it's all kind of tied in.
Oh, your first one was when'd you get that tattoo? The ZP in the sun?
I was in 10th grade. I was a 10th grader. I was 16. I was super young.
And you hid it from your mom for like quite a while, right? Your dad took you to get it?
For like a whole 8 days or something like that. Yeah.
I thought it was longer.
Yeah, like a long time.
And how did that conversation go down?
Oh, which one?
With your mom?
Well, she's like, is that real? And I was doing the dishes and I had no defense. I was like, I'm just doing the dishes here, Mom. I'm just helping out, being a good son. And she just pretty much figured it out. And I still didn't say anything.
Just silence?
Yeah. She just figured it out and later discovered that, it was real through the process of going through my father and him apologizing. Yeah, we were bored, so we went out. And yeah, and that's how she found out. Yeah, she was not very happy about that.
So I didn't love my first tattoo. I thought it was the coolest thing at the time. How did you feel about yours after a couple years?
Very similar.
Yeah.
Definitely was thinking like, wow, this is so cool when I was 16.
Yeah.
And later in life, I'm like, wow, this is not as cool as it once was.
Well, you also took up prime real estate, like on the outside of your bicep. Like that's the best place. Like you want to keep that open for like bigger shit.
Well, I mean, I think it's still in a good place to be incorporated, which it is incorporated in a much larger sleeve.
Right.
So it's all wrapped up into one nice big present.
If you don't mind me asking, are there like, not that it would be a definitive ranking or anything, but are there certain like usual go-to spots that people reserve or save or styles that I get, like the outside of the upper arm? I imagine, like you just said, Sam was popular, but is there like a 3 places or 5 places that people tend to do it the most, or like do they talk to you about that stuff when you go to the shop? Or if this is too dumb of a line of questioning, I apologize.
No,
I'm
I mean,
honestly curious.
So for me personally, I kept my whole right arm untouched because I knew I wanted a full sleeve. Like I didn't want anything in the way.
Which is shoulder to wrist, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then on my left arm, I had some stuff on the inside that I don't like regret, but I knew that I had the whole outside because I wanted like a big, not half sleeve, but like a piece like that size, like shoulder to elbow. And I wanted to keep my whole forearm clean for one big piece. Like I wanted my arms to be like the big cohesive pieces. And then all the like random shit I'm putting on my legs, like that's kind of like the doodle pad, I guess. And then my arms I'm trying to reserve for like the better, bigger things. But yeah, there's definitely some places like the back of your calf, like below the knee pit. Like that's a good place just to have a big flat surface in case you want to get something big. Like obviously like your back, if you're into back tattoos, like I don't have any on my torso, or I have some on my hips, but like I don't think I want to go like back or shoulders or stomach or chest or anything. So I'm keeping like my torso.
I feel like if it's
clean.
on your back or chest, I mean, those are definitely some sizable statements at the pool. Like those are like it's never
Right.
It's never a low key tat when it's in those areas. I feel like.
And it's totally up to you, dog. It's like where if you go to one place and see a select few people with the whole array, arms or chest or ribs or back, and you could ask them the same question, like, what are your 3 top places for big pieces, and they can give you a random order. So it's just completely up to you. It's a total preference.
But
I had no idea what I wanted to do with my left arm, so I was like, all right, just slap it on there, just put a whole bunch of different things on there that I like, and one day, eventually, I will like something enough to tie it all into one and just put a big old bow on it, and I'll just think it's cool. It's like it's a doodle pad, eventually, and it kind of tells, it just monitored, I don't know, several months, several years of this is what I was thinking then, and this is what I'm thinking now.
Are there things that you have on your body that were statements that don't like relate to you at all anymore?
Yeah, I do. I have a cross on my chest.
Yeah, how do you feel about that?
Well, that's my next one I'm going to work on. Okay. Because
Well,
I'd like to I'd like to change that.
I have again, prime real estate. I wish I didn't do this. I have a laurel with the number 777 inside, which some people think is like a gambling thing, but it was like biblical numerology, and it was also like one of Under Oath's like live DVDs or something. And it was from like when I was a Christian, and I'm like not anymore. And it's not like a cross where like you can't spin something like, oh, 777, it's like good luck or whatever. But I don't really care. It's not like I'm embarrassed because it was a really big part of who I was, and I'm not like proud of the person that I was back then. But it's like people are like, oh, what if you regret that? Or what if like, oh, it's your favorite band. What if they're not your favorite band anymore? It's like, well, it'll remind me of a time when it was, and it was really important to me. So it's like a part of my past. You just get to see it every day, you know? But it's in such a big spot. Like there could be such an amazing, huge piece there. But like this little tattoo is claiming like the heart of that big piece. And that's what I regret, you know? To kind of go back to your question, Pat. Like
the 777's on your calf, right, Tom?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting to me that you guys both have like kind of religious based things that like when you're in your teens, you're like, oh, you're going to regret that. But if you asked it to the teen at the time, it's like, well, this one seems like the safest. It's religion, right? This is supposed to be the good one. And that's the two you guys mentioned first in terms of regret, the ones you regret, which is interesting to me, not in like an embarrassing way. It's just like from a parental standpoint, almost like, oh yeah, you guys, yeah, go Christ, cool, get them tatted up, baby. But those are the two that you mentioned first. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the cross for me was not originally thinking like, oh, I want to get it for God. No, my buddy Joey Finati and I were thinking, oh, let's get like a matching tattoo. And let's get a Celtic Brotherhood knot because we're buddies.
Right.
And it just ended up being, oh, yeah, it's just like in a cross. Yeah, it's just in a cross. Yeah, there's God's involved. Cool. and that's how it was. So first and foremost, when the two of us got it, we were like, yeah, it's a Celtic Brotherhood knot within a cross. Yeah, it's cool. And of course, I haven't talked to that guy in like 8 years. So
really? I'm saying, though, like, that is a Brotherhood knot. Would you have to consult Joey if you altered it? Is there like some unspoken tattoo rules that you have? Like, I feel like you'd have to be at least told about it.
Ooh.
I would not feel bad if I
also, the Finatis get 2 shout-outs in this episode. Like,
ew.
Yeah. How
big
about
part of
that?
our community. Good family. I love them.
I would not feel bad if I altered it without Joey Finati's permission. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got a matching bro tat with this girl, Ashley. She was a customer at the coffee shop, and we kind of were seeing each other for a little bit. But we got these espresso cups with like a little heart in it. And the hearts weren't, I guess, in my mind, they weren't for each other at the time. I don't know what her intentions were. But we each got like the same thing. She drew it. We went out and got it. And a few years later, my last day at the coffee shop, which was, you know, my first day at the wood shop, I got "never again" tattooed around it to be like, yo, coffee, I'm over it. And she actually texted me and was like upset about it. And this was like maybe 3 years later. Like, hey man, that was like a matching bro tat. It wasn't like your coffee love tat. It was like for us. And then you changed it to make it about something else. And I was like, chill.
Like, whoa.
Yeah.
I feel like I can kind of understand that, though, because you guys, it's supposed to represent something permanent, but you guys, like the ink pad concept, I think makes sense if it's supposed to represent like a journey through life or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I could see where she would be like, what the hell, man? Like, you know, getting a tat is no small thing unless it is. Like, I don't know. I don't know enough to speak on.
I mean, for me at this point, I guess it was a small thing, because at that point in my life, I was making like pretty good money compared to like how much my monthly bills were. So I had a lot of extra income. So it was just like, I was getting tattooed like every month, and it helped that like I got like the homie hookup from like one of my friends, who was not just like some girl in their basement. She was like a professional tattooer, you know, but I was getting tattooed all the time.
You had been in DC for a while at that point, right?
Yeah. So I was getting them all the time, but now that like they're so infrequent, I'm not getting like random little ones as much anymore. But Megan and I have 2 matching tattoos. We got sparrows. And she really wanted the one with the wings closed. I wanted the one with the wings open. And she was like, these aren't even matching. I'm like, they're still sparrows. You know? So she was bummed out about that. And then on my birthday, I was at the tattoo shop. I was like picking up jewelry because Megan got me a new septum ring or something. And my friend Johnny was like, hey, do you want to do like a quick little like quarter-size banger real quick? So he gave me a Saturn tattoo. And then Megan was like, oh, I like Saturn. Can I get it too? So then she got it too. And I was like, yo, like these aren't matching bro tats. This is just a Saturn that I liked. So like the two matching ones that we have, there's like weird tension between them.
Oh, jeez.
with my own wife. So that's interesting. But we wanted to like design our own hex sign and then get those tattooed. But it's so damn expensive. Like when you're getting the hookups, you know, I was paying, I mean, I guess it would have been the equivalent of like $100 an hour. But now tattoos are like $200 an hour. So it's just, they're infrequent. And I would rather prioritize my money differently at this point. And I feel like such an old man for saying that. But...
well, you do have a magnet in your finger, right. And you're hanging on to pennies, man. It's good. Yeah. It's good. It's just everybody needs a little help.
Because we got to buy a house in Vermont.
Dude, bought a house in Vermont. Bought in my mind.
Yep. Pat's coming with us. And then we can all get our elf ears put in together.
And what a perfect place to have elf ears, Vermont.
Well, yeah, man. For so many reasons.
You can end that sentence with any state in the union. And I think it would still be okay.
It's the fantasy state, I think, is that's written on the license plate.
So Pat, I'm very intrigued by the finger tattoo though, because I know that it's like concealable because it's in between your fingers, but like technically it's like on your hand, which is hard to conceal.
Yeah, in my head I would have draped the ring over it, I guess, and then you know, but you know, people always ask if you're going to get it. I'm like, I don't know if I've ever, you know, cared about anything enough to do it.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm Irish, but I don't want to get a shamrock on my body. Like, that seems pretty dumb. And I don't want to get a cross.
Wasn't one of Jay Holmes's things like,
yeah, he always was like,
don't smoke, don't get a tattoo.
Right. So basically it was kind of an unspoken, totally willing to help with college and just play, like, you can test it if you want, but I'd love it if you didn't. You know, I was like, I don't love anything enough to test that shit. Like, you know, I want to stay on this dude's good side for sure. And plus, I'm not that into it. I don't know. It was like, it wasn't even a set rule thing, which I think is what's great about, you know, Jay has his flaws. Every father does, I guess. But he was always pretty like, you know, it was never a hard, fast rule. It was just more of like he would encourage there to be an understanding about where he was coming from in certain respects. But he wouldn't lay it out. It was just kind of like a vibe he would set. I don't know how to describe it. Anyway, it was just like, every once in a while, for example, he'd just be like, hey, man, just really cool that you haven't got it tatted up or, you know, smoke in front of me or anything. Like, that's great. You know, like, that is just really neat because that was kind of my two goals. And if you could keep that up, I would just love it. But, you know, he wasn't that hippie about it, but I'm misquoting him, certainly. But if that sheds some perspective on it, he just, you know, made it clear what he preferred. And I was like, yeah, that sounds good to me. I see the logic in that. He was like, at the very least, nothing that a dress shirt couldn't cover up and stuff like that. He was just very practical about it.
Right.
From what I remember. I could be paraphrasing incorrectly. And then as the years went by, I was mostly scared to be wrong about something, you know, guess wrong, I guess. So then I kept trying to think of things that were concrete enough in my life. But it's like, what are you going to list the names of your family members? Like, this is both accurate and meaningful because of who I was born to. I don't know. You know, it's just like you drift in and out of music and things you read. And I don't know. Nothing ever sang to me quite like that. But I like, you guys have stories to tell and, you know, literally stories to tell based on what's printed on you. And, you know, I love the lyric in that song by something corporate, you know, paint my body till all the skin was gone or whatever. You know, it's a beautiful sentiment. I like people who do it, have fun stories to tell and all that. But, yeah, it just never came up, I guess.
So if you guys all come to Denver in winter to record a new EP with me and spend some quality man-on-man time, man-on-man. Would you consider for even a second if we all went out and got matching bro tats?
That's tough because it would ruin the spirit of why I hadn't for so long to be like, no, this is who I am now. I'm not doing it. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of just serendipitously happened this way anyhow. But I think just from a design standpoint, it would have to be really good and in a spot that made a lot of sense. I don't know. I'd be very hesitant if I'm being upfront about it.
Yeah, I mean, when you have one, it's a lot more pressure.
Like, we wouldn't be like,
right?
yo, dude, what if it was Saturn? Like, in the shop? Like, yeah, man, let's just kind of put it somewhere. Like, that would not be how it at all, you know?
I think I told you before, I have a tattoo on me that the first time I saw it was when it was done. Like, had no idea what it was as it was getting tattooed.
And for the listeners at home, you and I, if it's not been made clear, have differing opinions on tattoos. I think that's what we're really trying to say here.
Man, I saw something on Reddit. It was like people would have their friends, they would make a design for their friend to get tattooed on them, and then they would get it done and see it afterwards. And there was a girl that got like a full back tattoo of a girl squatting and right above her butt. And when she showed it, her friend was laughing like uncontrollably, and this girl was like, "Oh my God, what did you do?" And the host was like, "Can you tell a story behind this?" And she was like, "I was at a party and did anal for the first time, and I myself." and her friend got that tattooed on her, like her whole back.
That is
wow.
I would not. I don't think I'd recommend that one as your first pet. Maybe
a third.
Well, you know, you're a good buddy of mine, Zach, and it's nice to hear you say it because I was thinking it, and gosh, that is so unfortunate. Jesus.
I'll put a link in the show notes to that for sure. It was brutal.
Oh my God.
Reminiscentpodcast.com/episode/95 to see that incredible video. So before we wrap it up, let's plan, whether theoretically or not, what our matching bro tats would be this winter.
I've got it.
Oh, shit.
I've got it.
Okay.
All right. Now, in the spirit of this episode, and can be up to discussion and debate, but instead of body modding ourselves with elf ears,
I already hate your idea. I want the elf ears.
All right, so there's some friction early. I like where this is headed.
There's tension, but there's something to talk about.
Okay.
What if we got matching tattoos of us getting body mod elf ears? So our tattoos would have elf ears on them.
Wait, like
a
in the
picture
process
of the three of us
getting...
in like barber chairs with like people messing with our ears. All across the lower back. I have always joked about getting the word juicy in cursive on my lower back when I turn 50, which is still in play, technically.
Now, if you're going to hold out, Pat, for that, I would back you 100% because I know that the three of us will be friends until we're 50 plus. But if you said, I'm holding out for juicy on my spot.
Which is the name of the next love novel coming from Elemental FM. I'm waiting for juicy. That's a book that needs to be written ASAP.
Waiting for Juicy. A Tale of a Florida Orange. And
so I've always been enamored with the thought of, it would translate to a horrible tattoo, but I've always wanted to see the design. Our old band with the name We Shall Not Speak Of.
Man, I don't get that. That's whack.
It was 4 under par, right? So we would abbreviate.
It is 4 under par.
Right. It is. We would abbreviate it to 4 up, and I've always wanted to see that like as the 7 Up logo. I would actually probably get that tattooed on me, like a can of 7 Up, but it said 4 Up.
That was the original t-shirt design, if I'm not mistaken.
That was the 4 underneath the line underneath par, and everyone thought our band's name was Par 4. They didn't get the cleverness of 4 under par, which Zach's mom drew on a piece of cardboard, and we gave that to the t-shirt printing company. We were 12.
I think the age, it's like, kind of like a fish story in reverse. You're like, it was this long, this fish. But when we tell the story, it's like, what were we, 7 when we made that band? You know, it's like we were like legitimately like in early high school.
We were in 8th grade. No, 9th grade. We were
right.
9th grade. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Also,
some of the best music to have come out of Erie County.
maybe a close 7th.
right. But I got to say, with respect to Calling Blue Skies, they were in a league above. So as long as we're not considering them in this joke, just because I honestly thought they were fantastic. Also, the lead singer of Trains from Fairview, if I'm not mistaken. So let's just pump the brakes here, guys, on what we're saying about Erie County music here. All right, let's just keep it in perspective now, don't you know?
All right, so this winter we'll all be getting one of those tattoos.
I love how this went from like, Pat, oh, you almost got one for your now wife? Like, oh, cool, I love that we're all going to get something, a spur of the moment in January.
So we're coming up on the time. So
yeah. Zach, you going to be joining us from here on out?
I'm set up, and I'm set up. This is pretty easy. I don't think any of this stuff needs to move anywhere at all, except this chair is super fucking uncomfortable. So
Pat
let's
knows
put the word
all
out
about that.
and get me a nice chair.
I mean, yeah.
I need me something nice to sit on. But
Get that executive leather.
leather.
That's what they call it.
That's what they call it in the biz.
Well, if you've never been an exec, you wouldn't know. So
I need to give a quick announcement before we go on to the music. We are starting a new podcast, right? Are we saying that out loud, Pat?
yeah, you tell me.
Okay.
Yeah, if I mean, the Ron Carnage thing has been off discussed on this show. So, yeah, you are the marketing whiz, and yeah, I would say so. I would say most certainly. I would say plan your Christmas gifts early / starting now.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be able to order the first Ron Carnage book.
So
And there's going to be a show. Sorry, I'm stealing your thunder.
yeah, no, please. Yeah, the novella is damn near done. We have all the graphic design and artwork coming in. And I messaged Pat one day and was like, you want to start a second podcast? And I think before you even said yes, I already had it registered with Libsyn with artwork done.
Yeah, you didn't text me a question. You texted me the show art.
And we're going to be recording the first episode immediately after we hit stop here. We might not even stop recording. So the podcast will be called Pod Carnage Inside the Author's Studio, which was the name of one of our episodes quite a while ago. And I don't know the airing schedule, probably Fridays. They're going to be shorter. But yeah, we're going to be talking about the book, everything that's going on with it, and kind of get a behind the scenes look of what's going on. And I'm super stoked. There's already like a second book that's pretty much done. So you can hear we're going to be kind of splitting the show in half. All the Carnage stuff will be going over there. So if you want to hear more, that's where you'll
And
find
what do
it.
I just, in case I was driving and had to concentrate on not running a red light like 10 seconds ago, what do I type into the iTunes store or wherever I get my podcasts to find this good show?
Well, I just got the show registered on Apple Podcasts, and you can find it at www.podcarnage.com. It'll redirect to the Who is Ron Carnage page, but everything can be found in there. And obviously, the links to that will be in the show notes.
Pretty easy. I like that.
Yeah, and with that, let's give a song of the week. John.
I'll go first. Did I already do Cool Generator by Bad Moves?
Yes.
Oh, damn it. Somebody else go.
Okay. You want to go, Zach?
Sure. This artist was brought up to me quite a long time ago by Pat in times of just count the good things and count the bad things, add them up, and just kind of make your way through. And hey, Maggie Rogers, Falling Water. It's just a really, really nice jam. I just like the song.
Maggie be thy name?
Definitely not her first recommendation on this show.
It's true.
I'll need to dig into it more because I did see her live and I don't remember most of it. So
I think Julian Baker was the OG of the show recommendations. I don't know if Maggie is in like the Mount Rushmore of this show's music recs, but she's definitely up there.
Yeah.
Which we should do that episode, honestly.
Okay, let's do it.
The Mount Rushmore of music.
That we've recommended on this show.
On this show, the best of the best. Yeah, I would actually love that. We'll have to dig into it. I will give Oh God. I've listened to nothing but the Story So Far's album since it came out 2 weeks ago. If you haven't heard the interview I did with their producer Sam Pura, that was episode 93, and it was awesome. I had a good time. Listened to nothing but. I tried to give Ariana Grande's new record a try. It was okay, but the song Upside Down is a really mellow jam for this band. I might have recommended that last week. If so, get over it. It's a good song. Listen to it.
Yeah, so I might have done this one already, but I'll circle back. The Death Cab for Cutie single off their 2018 album, Gold Rush, just started from the beginning, actually. I'm going to recommend the album. Just give it another spin. You probably already have, but give it another chance. I think it's not a bad effort. Revisit it. If only because I was driving down the street the other day and somebody on the radio was mentioning how warm the weather's been, and the lyric from the Postal Service album "Give Up," where he says you could swim any day in November, and I was like, wow, yeah. Gibbard was on that global warming stuff like 15 years ago. Anyway, so credit to Ben Gibbard just in general. Wish him the best, I guess, unless he's a bad guy. I don't know him personally, but anyway, Gold Rush is believe their single off their album that came out this year. So that's my recommendation.
I mean, he couldn't keep Zoe sticking around, so he's probably a piece of shit.
Well, her perception has taken a nosedive. I don't know. At first it was like, whoa, what's up with this crazy talent? And then it was like, I don't know if the quirk's a lasting quality. I don't know.
She's the worst character in her own TV show.
I would say 500 Days... This should be an episode, quite honestly. But I would say 500 Days of Summer hit, and it was like, dang, what can that woman not do? Then... Throughout the course of the show New Girl, people were like, I kind of get it. And it's not going to, it's not 7 seasons worth of I don't know.
I mean, Winston was obviously the main character of that show. So
this feels like we have enough for a Zooey Deschanel episode.
I'm currently watching and getting acclimated to it.
Oh, and, okay.
For the first time. And I watch it to laugh hysterically at Schmidt. And that's it.
You would. Just kidding. He's pretty good.
No disrespect, though, because she's been in the game since perhaps Almost Famous, but that's a very love her in the movie. Obviously a very storied career. And I feel like we have a full episode. We'll add it to
Yeah, we're going right into another episode.
I know. Thoughts on Zooey Deschanel? It's like, well, do you have several hours? Anyway. Kudos to her and Ben. Wish them both the best, I guess. How did this turn into this? What are we doing? End the episode, Tom.
Okay. I love you guys. Zach, I'm really glad you're here. And Pod Carnage, get on it. Love you guys.
I feel the same way, Zach. Nice to have you. Love you both.
I'll be back next week.
Bye.
Ba 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 ba.